And joining me now to talk more about the U.S. attack against Houthi rebels in Yemen and the rising tensions in the Middle East, just back from traveling to 9 countries with the State Department, is the top spokesman for Secretary Blinken. 9 countries, 7 days. How far were we, or how long was that? But
yeah, 7 days. I hope you've gotten more sleep than me, Andrea.
Maybe a tad, but not a whole lot. Let's just say your responsibilities are a lot bigger than mine. At every stop now, the Secretary was telegraphing that if the Houthis kept attacking critical shipping lanes, there would be consequences. The U.S. is not looking, he said, to expand the war beyond Gaza. But the Houthis and Iran have a say in all of that. What do you expect to happen? And how will the U.S. respond?
So I will respond to that by reiterating what the Secretary said in all of these stops in the region, which is that the United States does not want to escalate this conflict. We have made clear that from the beginning, and the Secretary thought it was very important that he have one-on-one conversations with leaders in the region where he could make absolutely clear that while we will defend our interests, we will defend our personnel, as we have done when we have seen attacks against them in Iraq and Syria, and we will defend the right for freedom of navigation and commercial shipping, as we did last night. We do not want to escalate this conflict, and we will not escalate this conflict. But all of that said, there are important interests at stake for the United States. There are important interests at stake for the entire world, and we will continue to take action to uphold those principles if and when it's necessary to do so.
Can you tell us anything about the assessments of what was accomplished last night?
I can't. Obviously, my colleagues at the Pentagon and the White House can speak to that. I know that the assessments are ongoing. There were a number of significant strikes that we believe had a positive effect. But as to the actual assessments, I will leave that to my colleagues at the Pentagon.
Do you know anything about collateral damage, about civilian casualties?
Again, I don't. And it's another thing I'll let my colleagues at the Pentagon speak to.
A former CIA and Pentagon Chief of Staff Jeremy Bash said on the Today Show that we're already in a de facto proxy war with Iran. Do you agree?
I think, look, we obviously see Iran funding a number of proxies throughout the Middle East. We see them funding Hezbollah, which has been attacking Israel from the border, from across the border in Lebanon. We see attacks from the Houthis. And, of course, most significantly, we saw the attack on October 7th by Hamas, which has been funded by Iran going back for years. So we continue to see Iran both attacking the United States, attacking our allies, attacking our partners in the region. And it's why we have made clear that we will take actions to hold Iran accountable. You've seen the United States impose more than 400 sanctions on Iran since the beginning of this administration. You've seen us take actions to counter their malign activities throughout the region, and you've seen us take action against their proxy groups when they attack the United States. But I will also say we have sent a very clear message to Iran, and it was a message the Secretary sent throughout this trip, that we don't want to escalate this conflict. We don't think it's in the interest of the United States. We don't think it's in the interest of Iran. We don't think it's in the interest of either the broader region or the world. But we will be very clear. We will defend the interests of the United States, and Iran should get that message loud and clear.
The Israeli Prime Minister has, according to Reuters, just issued a statement saying that Israel has made a deal with Qatar to get medicine to hostages being held in Gaza. Do you know anything about that?
I'm going to let those 2 countries speak to that. I will say that we did discuss various arrangements, both when we were in Qatar, meeting with the Emir of Qatar and the Prime Minister there, as well as in our meetings with Prime Minister Netanyahu and the War Cabinet. We discussed a number of ongoing efforts we have to secure the release of those hostages. You know, it was work that the United States did to broker a deal through Qatar to secure the release, and I should say through Egypt, to secure the release of over 100 hostages during the first humanitarian pause, and there are ongoing efforts to try to secure the release of more hostages. But as always, we are not going to speak much to those efforts publicly because we don't think they're helpful. But obviously, any progress on that, including the delivery of medicine to hostages, is something that the United States would greatly support.
Speaking about the Secretary's trip, he was able to deliver a big carrot to Israel, the possibility of diplomatic relations with Saudi Arabia. I know from my reporting how much Prime Minister Netanyahu wants that. And the Arab leaders are willing to potentially rebuild Gaza and help create a Palestinian government to secure Gaza if, and it's a big if the Netanyahu government would agree to a tough decision for them. It's something they have not agreed to, which is a pathway for Palestinian rights. for a Palestinian state. Predecessor Israeli governments have all agreed to that since 1991, as you know, but this prime minister and some of his ministers have refused. And the secretary really ran into a brick wall with Netanyahu and those right-wing ministers. What is the chance Israel will make the hard decisions the secretary has been calling for, which could lead to a completely different future, a much more secure future, he says, for all sides in the Middle East?
So, Andrew, I will say that, this is the secretary's fourth trip to the Middle East since October 7th. And there really was a difference in this trip from his first three trips, in that in the first three trips, the Arab partners that we went and talked to were not really ready to discuss issues around the day after, the reconstruction of Gaza, security in Gaza, governance in Gaza. And it really was different in this trip. The secretary went and met with, as you said, traveled through to 9 countries and met with leaders in each of those, and was able to secure agreements with all of these Arab partners, as well as with Turkey, that they were ready to have those conversations. They were ready to coordinate with the United States, and they were ready to take real steps to improve the lives of the Palestinian people in Gaza and to look at how to rebuild Gaza and establish Palestinian-led governance in Gaza. But they were only willing to do that if they had a partner on the other side in Israel, and if Israel was ready to take real concrete steps to establish an independent Palestinian state. Now, look, the secretary, when he went to Israel, did have this very candid conversation with Prime Minister Netanyahu and with other members of the Israeli government. And he also made a speech so the Israeli people could actually hear directly from him what the stakes were and what the potential benefits were, that you could have real partners in the Arab world, both to make assurances around Israel's security, to ensure that October 7th can never happen again. But look, it's going to require tough choices, and not just tough choices from Arab partners in the region, but really tough choices from Israel. And so the United States can't make those tough choices for Israel. We can't make those tough choices for any of these countries. What we can do is play a leadership role in presenting a vision to the region that is different than the vision that we saw on October 7th, but that is a vision for greater integration, for peace, security, and ultimately greater prosperity for everyone in the region, both Israelis and Arabs and Palestinians alike. And that is the vision that the secretary will continue to present and will continue to press in what I'm sure will be a number of future trips to the region in the coming weeks and months.